Random House Audio presents The Quick by Lauren Owen. Read for you by Simon Slater. From Clubs of London by Major Samuel Hobbs, 1890. A brief word here on the Aegolius, which bears the dubious distinction of being the most mysterious club in London. The Aegolius's character and affairs are kept a profound secret, known only to its initiates. The club's windows are forever darkened. One rarely sees members enter or leave the premises, and, strangest of all, there appear to be no club servants to speak of. Records of the Aegolius date back as far as 1705, though it is likely that the club had existed for many years earlier. The club has never been known for any distinguishing artistic, literary, or political bent, nor did it ever attain the fashionable heights of Whites or Boodles. Instead, despite its secrecy, the Aegolius has always borne a great reputation for respectability. It is well known that neither gaming nor the consumption of intoxicants has ever been permitted within its doors, and its early members were quite innocent of the deplorable excesses of the Hawkabites, the Mohocks, and their ilk. Membership is reputed to require a yearly subscription of 30 guineas, a ruinous sum paid with perfect equanimity by the Aegolius men, who were, until about halfway through the present century, drawn exclusively from the oldest and most illustrious families in the country. From around 1830, the club's premises have been situated on Ormond Yard off St. James's Square. The process of being elected for membership is extraordinarily difficult, and the number of club men is limited to 52. At this time it is significantly lower. The club has never waived this restriction, not even for the most august candidates. It is said that in 1785 the Prince of Wales insisted upon joining the Aegolius's ranks, though there was at that time no vacancy. After conversation with the club chairman, the Prince, to the astonishment of those who knew him, graciously condescended to accept a mere honorary membership. There are some who claim the discovery that the club possesses no wine cellar was the secret to the Prince's capitulation. Others hold that it was a sight of the club's bill of fare which persuaded him. Whatever the truth of the matter, it is certain that the disappointing cuisine provided at the Aegolius is proverbial. "I'd rather dine at the Aegolius" is to this day among the most vituperative criticisms it is possible to levy against any club, cafe, or restaurant. The Aegolius rarely, if ever, permits visitors, and it is chiefly due to the strict enforcement of this rule that so little information can be gleaned about the club's doings, whatever these may be. One wag has suggested that there is no mystery to the organisation at all, and that its members are simply men who delight in needless obfuscation and concealment. Perhaps this is the true answer to the riddle. Part 1. Chapter 1. There were owls in the nursery when James was a boy. The room was papered in a pattern of winding branches, amongst which great green parent owls perched in identical courting couples. Beneath each pair, a trio of green owlets huddled, their sharp beaks slightly ajar. They sat between big thistling green flowers with tiny white blossoms, which made James think of mother-of-pearl buttons, the kind on Charlotte's Sunday dress. When he was alone in the nursery, James thought he could hear the owls chatter together softly, like monkeys scratching and scratching their claws against the endless green branches. But when Charlotte was there, they were quiet, because she had told them that if they did not behave, she would get her box of watercolours and paint out their eyes. At night, James would hear the real owls screech outside, and imagine them gliding through the dark, Sometimes there was the high sudden cry of a fox, and sometimes there was a noise from the house itself, a whispering, creaking sound, as if the walls were sighing. Often he would slip out of bed and down the corridor to Charlotte's room. Charlotte would always be sound asleep, face down on the pillow, though Mrs. Rowley, the housekeeper, said it was unnatural and would lead to Charlotte being smothered to death one of these days. James would slip under the blankets and lie down topsy-turvy, with his head at the bottom of the bed, his feet near the top. Charlotte would sometimes murmur and kick half-heartedly against him, then fall asleep again, and James would do the same, his feet pressed against her back until they grew warm. They would lie all night like that, snug as the pair of pistols that lived in the blue-lined case in Father's study. When morning came, James liked to wake early, open Charlotte's bedroom window, and look down onto the grounds of Askew Hall, which went on for as far as he could see. There were wide lawns and gardens, edged by paths and stately, lovely old trees, oaks and horse-chestnuts, and copper beeches and silver birches. Between the trees there were 2 grassy mounds. These were the ice-houses, which now held gardening tools and other odd things. At a distance, the gardens still had the illusion of being neat and well-tended, as they had been before James and Charlotte were born. Long ago, in the prosperous days, there had been people to look after things, gardeners and under-gardeners, 2 gamekeepers and a carpenter, a fire engine, too, drawn by horses. Now there was only Griswold, strange and grim-faced and 63. There had been a young Griswold once, the gardener's son, who had been expected to take over from his father, and who, instead, went off to foreign parts and then died, fighting the shanty, said Anne, the housemaid. James thought perhaps this was a sort of banshee. After his son went away, Griswold had been left alone to wage a vain and bitter war against the gardens. He shot the rabbits, but they came back, grazing the lawns at their leisure. The mighty rhododendron bushes flourished unchecked, and in the orchard the trees turned wild, and the apples were eaten by blackbirds. At the end of the Hall Gardens, the ground gave way to a sudden drop that felt like the edge of the world. Below was a ditch full of nettles, which was called a ha-ha. Beyond that there were wide flat fields for miles, green and gold in the spring, red-brown earth in the winter. There were oak trees and black sheep grazing, and the ruins of a small Grecian temple, where long ago the ladies of the hall would sit to enjoy their books and needlework. Part of the roof had given way, and the pillars looked slightly crooked. It was not safe to sit there any more. Charlotte had heard Mrs. Rowley say that people in Askew village thought it was a scandal to leave the hall so neglected. Before now, the hall people had always done their part in the village. There had been treats for the Sunday school children. Sometimes the hall ladies would take baskets to the villagers who were poor or ill. More than that, there was any amount of work at the hall, mouths to be fed, washing to be done, windows to be cleaned, horses to be stabled. It had been a fine place back in the old days. Now it was mostly shut up. Everyone wondered why Charlotte and James's father troubled himself to keep the house at all, since he did nothing with it. Charlotte thought that if Mother was still alive, then Father would have lived with them, at least some of the time, when he could be spared from his business, and the people in the village would have been friendlier. As things were, nobody much cared for James and her. Even Mrs. Rowley seemed to prefer them to be elsewhere, outside in the gardens, or at their lessons, or in the nursery, anywhere, as long as they were out of the way. When Father had left Charlotte and James at Askew after Mother's death, he had said that he would make all the proper arrangements. Then they did not hear from him for a long while. Eventually he wrote to tell Mrs. Rowley that he had engaged a governess. The letter went on to say that he would approach Mrs. Chickering, his aunt, who might be able to make a long visit to Askew.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?